Allons aux enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. Contre nous de la tyrannie, l'étendard sanglant élevé, l'étendard sanglant élevé.
Hello, my name is Michael Jordan, and I'm a filmmaker and historian here in Savannah. And this is a plate of French fries. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is he showing a plate of French fries on a film about the French? I mean, come on, everybody knows that French fries are an American dish, not a French dish. But there's a reason for this. You remember back in 2003 when America invaded Iraq and France did not support us? All across the U.S., restaurants started renaming French fries Freedom Fries on their menu, or French toast Freedom Toast. It started a wave of France bashing. People were asking questions like, if we helped them in both world wars, why aren't they helping us now? Now, what did France ever do for us? Well, the answer to that question is a lot more than you might think. And the story starts right here in downtown Savannah. In October 1779, Savannah was an occupied British city. The Redcoat garrison was under a fierce attack by thousands of American Patriot forces and an even larger force of their French allies. This was the first time France intervened on behalf of freedom in the American struggle for independence. The battle lasted less than an hour, and the British won. But the day marked a crucial starting point in the lasting friendship between France and the United States. More than 800 French and American soldiers gave their lives on this Georgia battlefield, one of the deadliest battles of the entire war.
And this is holy ground for the Revolutionary War. It is holy ground for Savannahans, and it is holy ground for the French, who recognize this as one of the proving points for their commitment to the Revolutionary War.
French involvement in the American Revolution only grew with the passing years. As a French nobleman, the Marquis de Lafayette became one of General George Washington's ablest commanders. And in the pivotal siege of Yorktown, Virginia in 1781, as a French fleet prevented the British Army from being resupplied, thousands of French soldiers helped win the decisive battle that effectively ended the war and secured American independence.
Desiree la cartouche!
French losses at Yorktown were almost twice the number of Americans killed or wounded, and the French commander even dipped into his own funds to pay salaries for George Washington's soldiers.
The French are everything to the American victory. If they are not here, this victory is not going to be possible. You know, the French stood alongside of us. They bled with us here at Yorktown. This victory was as important to them as it certainly was important to us.
What was needed to bring this war to a conclusion was a very clear, definitive victory, lest this war drag on into more and more smaller skirmishes. So, to my way of thinking, you can make a strong case that the French role on land and on the sea made a critical difference in delivering victory to the American cause.
These are names of French soldiers that have given their lives in defense of our country. When you see names, it's one thing when you look at a gun, when you look at an earthwork, but to see names that these are actual individuals that were living and breathing, that cared enough for this cause to give their lives. Nothing speaks more than these names.
That was then. This is now. French soldiers worked side by side with Georgia National Guard troops during the Guard's year-long deployment to Afghanistan. Here in the French compound at Camp Phoenix in Kabul, Afghanistan, where French and American soldiers live, work, and eat together every day, every building in the French area bears the name of a hero from the American Revolution or a battle from that war. The building behind me is named after Count d'Estaing from the Battle of Savannah. At a forward operating base not too far from here, I found a handful of modern-day Savannah soldiers who are making their own history with French troops. The members of the Georgia National Guard's Serobe Valley Squadron set out early, headed on an important mission in an area crawling with Taliban insurgents. But the Peach State soldiers would not be working alone. They were part of a much larger force that included hundreds of troops from the French Foreign Legion.
Une fois que tout le monde est rassemblé, que c'est prêt, Today the American soldiers are with us in order to coordinate the action between ANA or ANP and us. Si jamais il n'y a pas de véhicule endommagé,
First, a quick briefing. Who's doing what, when, and where? Then hundreds of armored vehicles rumbled up a mountainside and took up positions. Georgia soldiers nervously scanned the village and the valley below, looking for telltale signs of an impending Taliban attack. Ashura, a meeting of local Afghan elders and NATO representatives, is about to take place in a cluster of buildings just a few hundred yards away. Georgia National Guard soldiers and French Foreign Legion troops are working together to provide security for that meeting. The mission was a success. The Afghan elders trekked up the mountainside to meet with the Allied force, hear what the French commander had to say, and voice their own concerns. This was one of many joint missions the Georgia soldiers undertook with their French partners in the Sorobi Valley. The team even included a French Foreign Legion soldier who is a native-born American.
Well, I'm a part of something that I certainly wouldn't have been a part of back home, and they've been kind enough to give me a second chance.
Yes, America!
For some, it's an unexpected lesson in the things we all have in common.
Yeah, I'm just going to show some of the French stuff, French flag they give me today.
You got this today?
Today, yes. And
Who gave it to you?
one of the mechanics. One of the mechanics,
Pretty big.
yes.
What are you going to do with it?
Take it home and put it in my room, on the wall in my room. I tell you, I have a lot different view of the French people since I've been here. You know, in America, a lot of times we see them as being kind of like cowardly or not, not being involved in fighting as much. No, I wouldn't say cowardly, just different politics. But since I've been here, I realize they're a lot like us. And they're friendly people, good people.
You know, I'm kind of the theory, the more friends you have, the better off you are. And, the French have a large number of troops here. I know the battle group is a large contingent. If they weren't here, then we'd have to supply that with American troops, putting a larger strain on what we have back at home.
What if I'd come to you a year and a half ago and said, you're going to be living with the French? What would you say?
I'd probably give you a funny face, kind of, uh-oh. Once somebody forms an opinion, they spread it, other people just base it off there, especially if they haven't been here or worked with them. Working with these guys, you see them out here, they slept out here overnight on the ground. These guys are just like us, soldiers out there with a mission, trying to get it done.
But the partnership between French and American troops in Afghanistan is not limited to cooperation on the ground. Here at Bagram Airfield, north of Kabul, Afghanistan, American and French forces are working together in a very unique way. This French unmanned aerial vehicle is providing eyes in the sky for NATO troops. What you're watching now is not part of a video game. Rather, it's the live feed from this remote control aircraft, the French Air Force Harfang. Named after a snow owl that can turn its head almost completely around to see in all directions, the Harfang is the French equivalent of the U.S. Air Force's Predator drone. It can soar to heights of 25,000 feet and use a variety of high-tech cameras to keep an eye on insurgents below.
You can broadcast the video direct to the ground forces. So it's a very important point. And the other advantage, we can stay in the sky a very, very long time. We can stay between 12 hours until 24 hours.
French pilots control the 55-foot wide drone from inside a hangar at Bagram Airfield, and they share with American and other Allied commanders the information its many intelligence-gathering devices collect. The aim, say French officers, is to help everyone achieve a common goal.
We need to work close together to show all the world that it is not a US war, it's a coalition war. All free countries make a coalition, a big coalition, to put the terrorism out of this part of the world.
Sometimes the French troops were there just when we needed them. as in this instance when a French Army tow truck pulled our broken-down Humvee off the side of the road in a dangerous mountain pass outside Kabul.
Oui, il y a une très bonne entente, puisque nos soldats, les soldats français et les soldats américains vivent ensemble depuis plusieurs mois sur cette base et participent aux mêmes opérations en zone d'insécurité et ont des liens très forts d'amitié.
In the fall of 2009, roughly 3,000 Georgia-based Army aviators began a year-long deployment to the mountainous areas of eastern Afghanistan. Once again, the French military was a part of the overall effort in the area, this time in the form of a chopper task force based at Kabul International Airport.
Yes, so we have a French helicopter battalion here with a full spectrum of operational capabilities. But it is important to fight together first because we are part of the same coalition, so we are allies. We must work together all over the Afghanistan.
It is not important for us to know if it is American or French troops, of course, because the aim of the Tiger is to support ground forces from ISAF troops, so it is not a difference for us.
Colonel Don Galley commanded Task Force Falcon from Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah during its deployment to Afghanistan.
Well, I think we have to remember that France is one of our oldest and greatest allies. And I think we have to remember that, especially in this fight, they have been with us every step of the way. And they're out there fighting it just as hard as any American soldier. And I very much respect their military. They're good soldiers. And it's important for them. And they make it a point to tell us, and they've told me, hey, we'll never forget 9/11. And we're here for you. And that's special.
In the violent south of Afghanistan, where NATO troops are engaged in some of their most bruising battles with entrenched insurgents, French fighter planes are part of a massive aerial force providing protection from above when ground forces need help quickly.
For us, there is no differences between French ground troops, US ground troops, Canadian air troops. For us, there are no difference. It's very, very important that US people here understand that for a French guy, a French pilot, there is absolutely no difference. We have the same rules of engagement. We have got the same procedures in the sky. We are trained as well. And here we are just performing our job in Afghanistan.
America is not alone. I mean, they've got a lot of country behind them. We are working for all the nation. So yes, we are French and we are proud to be French, but we're working for every nation who is involved and for the Afghanistans as well. We have all the same goal, which is to make the country safe and to restore the country to the Afghan people.
This cooperation is made possible by French and American partnership through NATO, the old Cold War alliance now finding new purpose in a world threatened by terrorism and failed states. Nothing symbolizes France's commitment to NATO more than the first ever appointment of a European officer, French Air Force General Stéphane Aubriol, to one of the alliance's top posts in Norfolk, Virginia.
First, it proves the enduring friendship between France and the US. And being here in Norfolk, not even 1 hour drive away from Yorktown, is a good symbol of what Americans and French can do together. This is also one of the glues of the alliance. It's the way we don't only share the burden, but we also share the blood price. Every nation is ready to pay the price needed for our freedom, for our security, for our defense. As you mentioned, France is very much part of Afghanistan. As I told before, France has been a player in every single NATO operation since its beginning. and it will continue like that. We are there together.
Most people don't know that France is the only nation in the world, other than the United States, whose Navy operates a nuclear-powered big-deck aircraft carrier. The Charles de Gaulle is the flagship of the French Navy. I went aboard the de Gaulle in the Mediterranean in late 2006, and I was stunned by the similarities between this French ship and its American cousins.
On the deck we have a lot of aircraft they're landing and taking off and running by the different operator.
I also met 3 American officers working aboard the de Gaulle in various roles, and they told me there are deeper similarities as well.
I came over here in 1995 on board the Foch before we started the French program to try to see if there were any differences between the way the French operated and the U.S. Navy operated. Yeah. The bottom line was there was none. We work together all the time. You'll find U.S. aircraft landing on the Charles de Gaulle, and you'll find French aircraft landing on the American carriers.
I feel right at home here. There is absolutely no difference. They work as hard, they play as hard, and the dedication to the mission, no matter what it takes to accomplish whatever that objective is for the day, exactly the same as in the U.S. military.
Actually, they've accepted me with open arms and helped me as much as they can. You have to take it as a sailor's a sailor, and this is where I'm serving, and they're my brothers, and you know you fight till the end, you know, with whoever you are, and I think they feel the same way.
It would be a year and a half before I saw anyone from the Charles de Gaulle again, and this time it was aboard an American aircraft carrier. In the summer of 2008, the French and American navies made history as several French Rafale M fighter planes and roughly 80 pilots and sailors came aboard the American aircraft carrier Theodore Roosevelt to take part in exercises off the U.S. East Coast. In this first ever joint operation, the French pilots, air crews, and planes were fully integrated into an American air wing, planning and flying missions together.
Charles de Gaulle is going through a maintenance period right now, so the air wing had to look for a place to keep their pilots qualified just until the ship comes out of the shipyard, which is very exciting because it's the first time that the French Navy is actually integrated with the American Navy. Not just a couple of traps and a couple of shots. They're actually integrated with the air wing and doing exercises with the air wing. So it's a very interesting time for the French Navy and the American Navy as well.
On the flight deck, French and American handlers, catapult officers, and landing signal officers worked hand in hand. And the French Rafale fighters certainly made a big impression below decks in the hangar bay.
Oh, it was awesome. Looks real fast, feels fast, seat's nice. Because when you just look at them, it's kind of overwhelming, you know, there's something you haven't worked on before, there's something you haven't seen. So when you actually get to talk to the guys that maintain them or the guys that fly them, you feel a little different about them.
On sera vers 18 000 pour l'altitude de ravitaillement et on descendra vers 250 nœuds pour le ravitaillement. Je vous en reverrai en manœuvre.
In the squadron ready room of VFA 31, an American Super Hornet fighter squadron playing host to the French officers, French and American pilots worked side by side every day to plan missions and simulated strikes.
Le rendez-vous, c'est un rendez-vous type porte-avions.
It's been fantastic. It's been fantastic. You know, even though we go through pretty much 2 different pipelines, I think being a jet pilot is universal. Pretty much same characteristics, same likes and dislikes, and we have a lot in common, more in common than we think. They're super professional, and they definitely have a mission in mind with everything they do, and I would trust them.
I would say that the aim for me on this deployment here was to show that we can land, we don't put a mess on an aircraft carrier that is US. We can do some spare parts here, do some repairs.
I think probably my biggest surprise is just how easy it has been. I think the integration here and the way the sailors, like I said, the maintainers and the flight deck crews have interacted has been very positive, and the French catapult launchers launching our aircraft, the U.S. Navy launching the Rafales and the E-2s, that's all been very positive and happened very quickly.
With each passing day and each successful mission, the French and American sailors and pilots grew more comfortable working together, and thoughts turned to the possibility of using the skills they've learned again in the future.
Well, as long as we're allies, then we're going to be working together, for example, on fighting the war on terror. So if we're out in the Persian Gulf, for example, working with the French aircraft, it's nice to know their capabilities, it's nice to know how they operate, and it's nice to know their mentality on how they operate in theater. So yeah, it's great to be out here with those guys just to see what their mentality is.
But I think we all respect, both sides respect what we do, and I think now it's even more transparent that the American Navy has actually seen the French pilots working as pilots. So I think now the United States has a better understanding of what the French do. It just opens up a whole lot of doors for everybody, and everybody to see that we're all in the same game. We all want to do the same missions.
French-American military cooperation continues right here in Georgia. At Moody Air Force Base in Valdosta, French Major Guillaume Vernet spent 3 years as a full-fledged member of the 41st Rescue Squadron. His team participated in countless combat evacuations in Afghanistan.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I have here, like coming to a different country, new culture, new aircraft, new language, with my whole personal background, because I was already an aircraft commander and flight leader before coming here, and it was like they told me, all right, you're gonna go ahead and get there and take as much experience as you can and come back with all the tons of lessons you can learn and bring back to us. That's definitely the best deal I've ever had.
He quickly proved himself the equal of any American pilot.
Is it safe and fair to say that there are American soldiers and airmen and Marines who are alive today because of his actions?
Numbering in the low hundreds, I guarantee it. Guillaume's participation in Afghanistan has resulted in saves of over 150 coalition and American soldiers and Marines, as well as the assists in probably another 200 to 220.
I'm definitely going to miss this place when I leave too, because things happen so quickly that I feel like I just arrived yesterday. I already have to leave tomorrow, so.
Joint operations between the French and American military have been going on for decades now. Scott Gibson is a retired U.S. Air Force officer and Gulf War Fighter Squadron commander who has served overseas in former French colonies, worked at the Pentagon managing military relations with France, and done postgraduate study in French-American cooperation. Gibson says the United States still needs France.
We cannot operate unilaterally. We don't have the strength, the resources. We have to work in a combined nature with nations like France. And I give the Department of Defense a lot of credit for realizing, hey, if we're going to do this together, we're going to do it together. We're going to get dirty together. We're going to get shot at together. We're going to trust one another. And I think that builds great coalitions.
Après, il y a l'adjudant Reason, qui est le chef du peloton appui direct, avec 3 VAB canons de vent.
What I have also noticed is that when you take a skeptical American and put him into an operation with French forces, I've never seen an American come back and think, see, I told you. you know, they're an unreliable ally and blah, blah, blah. They tell you the exact opposite. Like, these soldiers, it's like, we are. They're fighting just as hard as we are. I trust him, he trusts me, and I think that's a great thing. Any boots on the ground are helpful. I mean, I think you'd find trouble finding any American soldiers over there now who'd tell you that they're not grateful for any extra set of boots on the ground, regardless of what flag these folks fly.
Back in Savannah, the Coastal Heritage Society has created a memorial on the site where thousands of French soldiers fought for American independence in 1779. In 2007, the French Navy frigate Lafayette, named for George Washington's friend, the Marquis de Lafayette, visited the city. And the crew, in their dress-white uniforms, placed a wreath to honor their 18th century ancestors who bled and died on this ground 2 centuries before.
For me, it's a very high emotion, you know. It's the first time that my ship comes to the United States. She has been commissioned 10 years ago, and to be here in a place where the Revolution War had bloody events occurred here, it's a privilege to be here. I'm very impressed.
Throughout this program, we've taken you all over the world and shown you places where French soldiers fight alongside American troops for causes that both of our nations believe in. We haven't even talked about other ways that France has influenced our nation's culture. For instance, the city plan of our nation's capital was laid out by Pierre L'Enfant, a Frenchman who fought in the Battle of Savannah in 1779. And the Statue of Liberty doesn't get much more American than that. Not only was the statue designed by a Frenchman, but it was a gift of the people of France. For me, it all starts right here in downtown Savannah in 1779, when Frenchmen first landed on American soil, fought here, bled here, and died here for our nation's freedom. So the next time you're enjoying a basket of freedom fries or a plate of freedom toast, take a minute to think about our friends on the other side of the Atlantic who made that freedom possible in the first place.
Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. Contre nous de la tyrannie, l'étendard sanglant élevé, l'étendard sanglant élevé. Entendez-vous dans nos campagnes, il est jusque dans nos bras, égorger nos fils et nos compagnes. Aux armes citoyens, formez nos bataillons, marchons